You know what a lemon pie filling packet costs at the store right now? $2.49. I checked last Tuesday, standing right there in the baking aisle with my cart half full. $2.49 for a little box of yellow powder and instructions to add water. And you know what's inside that box. Cornstarch, sugar, and something called citric acid, standing in for a real lemon. Not one drop of actual lemon juice. I turned that box over 3 times looking for it. It's not there. Now, here's the part that got me. 4 real lemons, the kind with the bumpy skin and the good smell, cost me $3.20 that same day. 4 lemons, a whole pie's worth, barely 70 cents more than the powder. And mine has real fruit in it, real eggs, real butter. No packet can give you that. So, which pie do you think tastes better? The one from a box or the one squeezed by hand on a Tuesday afternoon? I think you already know. But here's the question nobody answers honestly. Why did we all switch to the box in the first place? What did we lose along the way? Out here on the ridge, we never switched. My grandmother's meringue pie was the tallest thing on the table at Sunday supper every single week for as long as anyone in this family can remember. Not because she had some secret gadget. She had 4 eggs, a bowl, and patience. And she knew exactly when the peaks were ready by the sound the whisk made. There's a video going around right now with a few million views showing a 5-minute lemon pie made with instant pudding and store-whipped topping. I watched it. I'm not going to sit here and tell you it's a lie. It is fast, and it will fill a pie shell, and if you're in a hurry, it'll get you through Thanksgiving without a trip to the store. I won't pretend that's nothing, but fast isn't the same as good, and a pie that takes 5 minutes to make usually tastes like it took 5 minutes to make. My name's Ruth, and I live on a little patch of land out past the county line in a farmhouse my husband's family has kept in the family for 3 generations now. We don't have much. A wood stove, a hand crank mixer that still works better than half the electric ones I've tried, and a whole lot of recipes written on cards so old the corners have gone soft as cloth. I learned this particular pie from my husband's aunt, a woman named Vera, who was 81 years old the summer she taught me. She'd been making it since she was 9, standing on a stool next to her own mother's stove. She told me the same thing her mother told her. A pie without a proper meringue on top isn't a finished pie. It's just a bowl of lemon curd with a crust underneath. I never forgot that. I think about it every time I crack an egg. By the time we're done today, you're going to know exactly how to build a lemon filling that sets up firm and bright without turning into paste, and a meringue that stands tall, holds its shape overnight, and doesn't weep that watery puddle underneath it that ruins so many pies. You'll know the 2 mistakes that cause 90% of meringue disasters, and how to dodge both of them without a thermometer or a fancy tool. Before we get into the method, I want to mention, a few of you have asked where I keep all my old family recipes written out properly, with the notes Vera gave me scribbled in the margins. I finally put them together in one place so I'd stop losing index cards in flour bins. I'll drop where to find that down in the description if you want to poke through it later. No pressure. Let's get to the pie. Here's the thing about lemon meringue that trips people up, and it's not really about lemons at all. It's about eggs, and eggs are simple once somebody explains them plain. A lemon filling gets thick because you're cooking egg yolks together with cornstarch and lemon juice until the starch swells up and traps the liquid. Think of it like tiny sponges soaking up water until they're too fat to move. That's what thickening really is. No mystery to it. The meringue on top works almost the opposite way. When you whip egg whites, you're beating air into thin threads of protein, which is just the stuff eggs are built out of. Every time you whisk, you stretch those threads thinner and trap a little bubble of air inside. Do that long enough, and the threads link up into a net that holds thousands of tiny air pockets steady. Sugar's job is to grab onto that net and stiffen it, sort of like how syrup holds a shape better than plain water. That's the whole secret behind a meringue that stands up tall instead of falling flat. No mystery there either, just eggs, air, and patience. Let's build the filling first because it needs to be hot when the meringue goes on top. That's not tradition, that's chemistry, and I'll explain why in a minute. Start with a heavy pot, not a thin one, because thin pots scorch lemon filling in about 4 seconds flat, and scorched filling tastes like a burnt penny. Whisk together a cup and a third of sugar with a third cup of cornstarch right in the dry pot, no heat yet. Getting the starch mixed evenly into the sugar first keeps it from clumping later. That's a trick Vera hammered into me the very first day. Dump cornstarch straight into liquid and you'll get little translucent lumps that never fully smooth out, no matter how hard you stir. Nobody wants that texture in their mouth. Once that's mixed, whisk in a cup and a half of cold water and a pinch of salt, then set it over medium heat. Keep that whisk moving the whole time. Don't wander off to check your phone. This is the one stretch of the whole recipe where you actually have to stand there. It'll look thin and cloudy at first, almost like dishwater. Keep whisking. Somewhere around the 4 or 5 minute mark, it turns a corner fast. It goes from watery to glossy and thick in under 30 seconds, like it flips a switch. That's the starch finishing its job. Pull it off the heat the second it thickens, because a minute too long, and it turns gummy instead of silky. Now here's the part where most people mess it up without even knowing it. You've got 4 egg yolks sitting in a bowl, and you cannot just dump them into that hot pot, because you'll scramble them on contact and ruin the whole batch. Instead, spoon about a half cup of the hot filling into the yolks first, whisking hard the entire time. This warms the yolks up slowly, gently, so they don't seize. Then pour that warmed yolk mixture back into the rest of the hot filling and whisk it all together. Set it back on low heat for about 2 more minutes, stirring the whole time until it's thick enough to coat the back of a spoon and hold a line when you drag your finger through it. Off the heat, stir in 2 tablespoons of butter and 2/3 of a cup of fresh lemon juice. That's about 4 to 5 lemons, depending on how juicy they run. Add the zest too, the grated yellow skin, because that's where most of the actual lemon flavor lives. The juice gives you tartness. The zest gives you the smell that fills the whole kitchen. Skip the zest and your pie will taste like lemon-flavored candy instead of an actual lemon. Pour this hot filling straight into your baked pie shell. Don't let it cool first. That's the chemistry part I promised to explain. While that filling's still steaming, start your meringue right away because a hot filling underneath helps cook the bottom of the meringue as it bakes, which is exactly what stops that watery layer from forming between the filling and the topping. That weeping puddle everybody complains about? 9 times out of 10, it's caused by a cold filling meeting a cold meringue. Heat solves it before it starts. For the meringue, you want your egg whites at room temperature, not fridge cold. Cold whites just don't whip up as tall, plain, and simple. Start beating them alone on medium speed until they turn foamy and pale, like the top of a bubble bath. Then add a 1/4 teaspoon of cream of tartar, which helps stabilize the whole structure so it doesn't collapse later. A little bit of lemon juice does almost the same job if you don't have any on hand. Once you see soft peaks, meaning the mixture holds a shape, but the tip flops over when you lift the whisk, start adding sugar. 1/3 of a cup, 1 tablespoon at a time, beating for a good 10 or 15 seconds between each spoonful. Don't dump it all in at once. Adding it slow gives the sugar time to fully dissolve into the egg whites instead of sitting there gritty. You'll know it's ready when the peaks stand straight up on their own and hold their shape, stiff and glossy, almost like satin. Rub a tiny bit between 2 fingers. If you feel sugar grains, it needs another minute of beating. Spread that meringue over your hot filling, right to the very edge of the crust, sealing it against the pastry all the way around. That seal matters more than people realize. Any gap and the meringue shrinks away from the crust as it cools, leaving an ugly rim. Use the back of a spoon to pull up little peaks all across the top, because those peaks are what turn golden brown in the oven and give the pie that classic toasted look. Bake at 350 degrees, about as warm as a summer afternoon in full sun, for 12 to 15 minutes, just until those peaks turn golden. Then here's the step almost everybody skips. Let the pie cool on the counter for a full hour before it ever sees the refrigerator. Cooling it too fast in the fridge is what causes that weeping again, on top of everything else. Give it the hour, then chill it for at least 3 more before you cut into it, so the filling has time to set up firm enough to slice clean. While we're on the subject of what things cost, because I know some of you are doing the math right along with me, a full pie made this way runs you right around $4 and change once you count the eggs, the butter, the flour for the crust, and the lemons themselves. A comparable pie from a bakery counter runs anywhere from $12 to $18 depending on where you live. Make 1 pie a month, and by the end of the year, you've kept over $100 in your own pocket and eaten better the whole time doing it. So here's where we land. Cook your filling low and slow with the starch mixed in dry first. Temper your yolks gentle so they never scramble. Whip your whites to stiff, glossy peaks with the sugar added a spoonful at a time, and seal that meringue tight against the crust edge before it ever goes in the oven. Do those 4 things, and you've got a pie that holds its shape, slices clean, and doesn't weep on the plate. This week, before your next Sunday supper, do one thing for me. Buy real lemons instead of the bottle, even if it's just this once. Squeeze them yourself and smell your hands afterward. That smell is half the reason this pie is worth making at all. Now, I've got a question for you, and I really do want to know the answer. When you were growing up, did your family top their meringue plain, or did somebody sneak a handful of shaved coconut or a little cinnamon dust over the top before it went in the oven? Tell me down below what your family did. I read everyone, and I've been surprised more than once by what shows up in those comments. Next time, we're going to tackle the crust underneath this pie, because a soggy bottom can ruin even a perfect filling, and there's a trick with the flour temperature that fixes it every single time. Until then, mix that starch in dry, warm your yolks slow, and whip those whites till they shine.